All right, Namaskar. A very warm good evening to each one of you. And we are indeed grateful to Wine Kaushal sir for being present here for today's special evening talk by the ISTD Delhi Chapter. Before we proceed on to the session, I would like to request the chairman of ISTD Delhi Chapter, Mukesh Kumar Jain sir, to kindly address the gathering with his welcome address. Over to Mukesh Jain sir.
Thank you, Yashwant. Namaskar, good evening. I, on behalf of Management Committee of ISTD Delhi Chapter, welcomes you all to this very interesting evening lecture by our veteran and very senior professional, Shri Y.N. Kaushal, who's the Diploma Board Chairman of ISTD Delhi Chapter and hold many senior positions in ISTD and as a whole. So I welcome you. The topic of today's lecture is lessons from pandemic for L&D professionals. That is a very, very interesting topic because still we are not out of the pandemic, and what we learned and what we are going to implement in our daily lives and new normal. I believe that will help us in getting a lot of tips from our own Shri Y.N. Kaushal ji and supported by Shri Sunil Abrol Saab. So I welcome Dr. Abrol, all my colleagues in ISTD Delhi, members from other chapters, and all ISTD members and students of ISTD Diploma to this evening. I'm sure you will take a lot of good things from the wonderful lecture of Shri Kaushal, and I wish to enjoy the evening and have a great time ahead. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Over to Yashwant.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts for the day. We have a very exciting session today by Y.N. Kaushal sir, who is a very veteran ISTDian, on the theme of learnings from the pandemic for L&D professionals. We all have seen how the entire pandemic has actually, created the impact globally, right? So it will be really great to hear and learn from Y.N. Kaushal sir's perspective. What are the learnings for the L&D professionals? Before we request him to start with the session, I'd like to formally introduce him first. Alok, can we have the slide for Y.N. Kaushal sir? Yes, so it is my proud pleasure to introduce Y.N. Kaushal sir, who is the Director Enablers India and a National Council member of Indian Society for Training Development. He is a management trainer, faculty, consultant as well. Sir is an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, which is IIM Ahmedabad. And he has received the fellowship from the US government in 1996 for study of various HR practices in the United States of America, and visited Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania as well. He is a qualified administrator and trainer for programs using MBTI as a tool. He has designed and delivered more than 800 management development programs in diverse areas of management, and designed and coordinated several programs for general managers and executive directors across various companies. He was on the faculty of Power Management Institute of National Thermal Power Corporation, which is NTPC, for the past 16 years. And he has headed the management faculty and led a competent team of faculty members as well. He has also discharged several managerial roles in business development, project management, and institutional development. Sir was also associated with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, where he spent almost 6 years in various places like Bangalore, Lucknow, and Kanpur. Mr. Y.N. Kaushal sir has been the management consultant and entrepreneur for the past 20 years. So he has a very rich experience of building the great organizations. During this period, he has served several clients in various industry sectors like power, manufacturing, petroleum, banking, trading, FMCG, IT services, NGO, etc. He has been the life member of ISTD for a long time. He is also the life member of National HRD Network. And during the pandemic time, he has mastered the arts of delivering the online learning to his learners. Sir has also contributed immensely, to ISTD's diploma board during the design part of the entire curriculum as well. And he has been contributing richly to this great institution. Thank you so much, indeed, Y.N. Kaushal sir. We are indeed grateful to you for sparing your valuable time and being here for delivering the special session on the theme. Thank you so much, and over to you, sir, for the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashwant, for such a gracious introduction. Good evening to all here, and I thank Delhi Chapter Managing Committee, headed by the Chairperson, Mr. Mukesh Jain, for inviting me for today's talk and giving me an opportunity to share some lessons that we have learned during last 2 years of pandemic. I welcome all the participants also, some of my students, some of our colleagues from ISTD, and also some guests, who are here, right? In today's talk, what I propose to do is I propose to share first my views, my memories, thoughts for about 25 minutes or so, or 30 minutes, and then invite other distinguished guests also to share their views, share the lessons that they have learned from these 2 years, and also some other, the way, the things are going to go forward in terms of sort of, how training and development function is going to emerge out in the coming years, right? So to begin with, let me go down the memory lane for past 2 years, and we'll devote about 5-7 minutes for this, and then we'll come to the subject proper, because this is the context in which we have learned all this, and that is very important to just recall how the whole thing really happened. Yes, as you know, that lockdown was started from about 25th of March 2020. Till then, our regular activities at ISTD Delhi chapter were going on in physical mode. We were having evening talks, we were having diploma classes, and the diploma classes had already started off in that particular semester, and one set of diploma classes had taken place, and that was in March, early March, and then the lockdowns started. As the lockdown started, we were almost everyone found or felt that there is a serious disruption to the sort of our life in general, right? And also our professional lives were severely affected. So we started, in fact, at ISTD Delhi and ISTD national headquarters also, we started looking for alternatives. And we decided to go virtual, online. From say 25th, 26th onward, we started off preparation for how do we make it happen. And these preparation was going on with the help of, or in collaboration with the national headquarters. NHQ entrusted the responsibility to our team as the ISTD Delhi chapter to conduct the online classes. And these online classes were not for only Delhi chapter, but they were for all India. Our team rose to the occasion, and first online session was was conducted on 11th of April. So 25th of March to 11th of April, that was the period during which we were making preparation to go online. And in between, we had actually done some dummy sessions also, right? So this was only about a fortnight or so within which we have begun the work online. This is actually a creditable achievement for the ISTD, not only for Delhi chapter, but for ISTD, because many other associations and, societies, professional societies had actually stopped working at all. But ISTD began and continued working, continued serving its members and its student community. Now, what were the challenges? One challenge, many of our faculty members were not familiar with the Zoom platform, so we made them familiar. The familiarity was like, and also, IT competency, that is ability to use information technology, was quite varied. Varied in the sense that it was very uneven. Some were quite comfortable to take on to this, and some were not so, for someone, it is not, some people, it was not so easy. Like one of our faculty member used to say that for me, IT is income tax and not information technology. So you can understand that there was a challenge which was there. But I'm happy to recall that all people burnt, those who had the challenge also, they burnt proverbial midnight oil and rose to the occasion, right? Okay, so the entire online thing went on to the Zoom sessions, and for the first time, what really happened was that while this was considered a sort of a challenge in the beginning, there was also one important plus point that was happening. Students from all over India were now finding that they have a way to connect with each other and interact with each other, and also understand what is going on in the minds of the people from different parts of the country. And this was because, the type of questions which will be raised by the students, etc., that gave an idea to others that, okay, this is the experience that person is having, this is the challenge that person is having. And they were also sharing their experiences. So when they were sharing experiences, it was a very good sort of, stimulating environment which was getting created. Now, we should really look at not only that this part of ISTD diploma, simultaneously, our evening talks had also gone ahead, and we began in the, in the online manner. So under the hanging sword of pandemic, our members were excited and experienced the indomitable spirit of ISTD. So let me repeat this. There was an indomitable spirit, unstoppable, and we continued to march ahead in the face of adversity. That was the type of sort of, spirit that we had. And it kept us very, very much sort of, optimistic, hopeful that yes, we can do, we have a challenge, but we can overcome the challenge, right? So ISTD Delhi chapter, fortunately, is blessed to have the best talent pool in the country. Now, it is not difficult to see why, because Delhi is the capital of the country, and best of the talent from different parts of country, different states, actually tend to gravitate towards Delhi. So in Delhi, we have people from all over India, and in the Delhi chapter also, we have people, who are from, say, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Bengal, Northeast, and also obviously from the northern states, so which are in close proximity of Delhi. So that's the advantage, and that's the natural advantage which Delhi chapter is having, of having one of the best talent pool in the world, in the country, right? So initially, the online sessions as they started were presentation oriented. And after a while, our team started experimenting with small group discussions, which was possible because of the breakout room facility which Zoom gave. And later, some of our faculty members started experimenting with experiential exercises also. So the experiential methods like case study and games, etc., were in some cases modified, made appropriate for the online environment, and these were quite successful also. So, thank you. So in this, we also included self-assessment questionnaires also. So these are some of the things that begin at that point of time and have continued for the 2 years. Now, what have been our achievements at ISTD? I would say both at Delhi chapter level as also at NHQ. And now, in the pre-pandemic era, when we were holding, approximately one evening talk for our members per month, right? Now, you have seen that in the pandemic era, what we have really done is we have tried to do it one evening talk every week. So suddenly you see the type of, say, numerically, we have really, increased the events that we are holding now. Second question, second point. When we were holding physical evening talks, people will come, but there will be like interaction also. Obviously, that was a very plus point that there was opportunity for networking. However, the number of people who will be there will be only about 25, 30, maybe at the most 40 or so, and very rarely more touching 60 or 70. But in this, in this period of 2 years, we have seen, numbers for increasing and going up to even up to about 250 to 300. Now that's a very, very big achievement. So that's a very big issue, big sort of, shows the potential of the new environment in which we can operate and we have been operating. The third thing which happened was that the type of speakers we were able to get. Earlier, we were able to get the people who might be sort of, visiting Delhi or from Delhi. But in the pandemic, in the online environment, we got speakers from all parts of the country. One of the best speakers we got even from abroad. So that's certainly increases the quality of our offerings, quality of our service to our people, our members, right? So, yeah. So before I go to the part of, the lessons that we have learned from this, I would like to really take a couple of minutes to acknowledge and thank the people who have been involved in this with me. I have been part of it. And so the faculty members who have been involved have been like Mr. Ajay Sahu, who is our General Secretary, Anubha Walia, Dr. Anubha Walia, one of our earlier student and now a member of this, Dipankar Das, Professor G.K. Agarwal, Mr. Jagvandhu Banerjee, late K. Govind Rajnu, Mrs. Manisha Bhatnagar, Mr. Path Sathi, who was Executive Director earlier of BHEL HRDI, and late Prabhat Varshne, Rekha Bhardwaj, who was also GM at BHEL earlier, now retired, Sumit Chaudhary, Swadesh Chakravarti, Ted K.M. Das. Now, these are some of the faculty members. There's also support from Director of ISTD, Avinash Joshi, his team, our own person, Arun, was very active in this, and the support provided by Alok Agarwal and Gurvinder was also of very, very high quality. This was also all supported by, late Raghu Raman, who was the manager of ISTD Diploma, and his team, where Sarita, Meenakshi, and others have been there. Now, this also brings us one, a sad part of, the experience that we have had. In this list that I have shared with you, 3 persons are no more with us. Mr. Govind Rajulu, Prabhat Vashni, and Raghu Raman. Now, you can see that that's the type of losses that we have had in this particular period. And we do, remember these people and their contribution with great gratitude. Right? So I would now come to, so what are our lessons from this whole experience of these 2 years? Now, this particular lessons which I will be now sharing are actually not only based on what my experience has been with ISTD and its diploma classes, etc., but it's also that my experience with MBA teaching in one another college, and in fact 2 colleges, and our corporate clients, some of whom had actually sought our services, and we conducted some sessions for them. So this is the 3 sources from where different type of experiences came in, and therefore things will actually be not only focused only on the diploma, but it will be focused on training and development in general, right? So what has really happened is that during this period, the canvas on which L&D manager is going to be working on has been highly enlarged. It is very highly enlarged. In fact, earlier we were having largely, the physical classes, physical training. People will be coming together at a particular place, going through the training, and then go back to their respective workplaces, etc., and will now try to apply whatever they have learned. Now, what has happened now is that we have now looked at, and now we are seeing that our trend is towards hybrid learning. Hybrid learning has been in existence for a long time. However, it has been resisted in general by the participants. Of course, in some organizations it has been successful. In many others, it has not been all that successful. Now, my belief is that going forward, every L&D manager will find that something like the ratio of online versus offline training will be something like a 60-40, in the sense that 60% of what is being done will be done online, and 40% will be done offline, that is in the classroom or when the people are physically together, etc. So that's my feeling. It can vary from organization to organization, but this is how the things are going to pan out. Therefore, L&D managers will have to now look at the way they design their training and the way they design their calendar, etc., will be quite different now. Now, this also would mean that some person-to-person, interactions, which have been happening earlier only, when a person goes and meet the person. Now, many of the people are saying, oh, no, it's okay. If I have met the person once in face-to-face, later on in the subsequent meetings, I can just have a very good interaction with the person on a video chat also. So that's the facility that's really happening. So you can see that how electronic medium is mediating in the interaction amongst the trainers and the participants, right? Okay, so what is the impact of this? The impact of this is, number one, trainers and the participants are able to utilize their time in a better manner, because a lot of time earlier was going in traveling to meet the person, right? Second thing is that the cost is going down. Cost is going down, and that gives a great opportunity to the learning and development manager. Because if the learning and development manager can negotiate and keep in his or her, say, organization, the training budget constant, right? It is not reduced, but it remains constant. Then the the type of coverage which learning L&D manager can achieve will be much higher. So there will be a very say increase in the coverage, increase in the intensity of training, right? So say if I give you say example of this will be if suppose we do a program and the program is of 5 days duration and 6 hours every day of instruction time. So what we have is say 30 person hours are available, 30 training hours are available. And if we have 20 people into this, the 20 into 30, it becomes 600 person hours where we have provided the training. Now, what will happen that this 600, if it is roughly divided by 50-50 or 60-40, then quite a bit of that particular load on the infrastructure of the training center will go offline. Now, so your infrastructure, without increasing the number of sort of, say, conference rooms or training rooms, has suddenly got more capacity because 50% of the capacity is going online, which is done by the person sitting in his office and on his desk and or maybe sometime at home or anywhere. And that becomes a big advantage. So to my mind, in near future, the capacity or I would say capital expenditure in training infrastructure would be limited, would not be going as high as it would have gone otherwise. Right. So that's one of the challenges that one of the good things that is really happening. Second thing that I would like to talk about is the access, reach. Now, many times what was happening is, and I was in NTPC and I had this problem when some of the groups, we knew that they have a training need, but we were not able to meet those training needs. It can be that those people were too far off. Secondly, these people were not available for so much time, like 1 week, right? And we had to abandon that sort of like training needs because they were not feasible, at that point of time. Today, what's happening is that through a mix of online and offline, we can reach to all corners of the country or even all corners of the world, right? And therefore, the reach of training has increased considerably, right? And people have also got access to good quality training. See, for example, there are 2-3 types of organization where this was not much of a problem. For example, MNCs, they have money. PSUs, they have money. Big domestic power sector, big domestic companies, private sector, no problem. Government, not much of a problem. But what happens to the medium scale organizations and also the small scale? Most of them were not having access to the training, good quality training, because they were finding it's costly. It's costly from their point of view, and it's also like एक दिन की training के लिए एक दिन वो जाएगा, एक दिन आएगा, 3 दिन का काम का खर्चा होता है. So all those type of things were really making it that the access to the good quality training in certain parts of our industry was limited, right? So this is just one. Now, what has happened now? It has suddenly become much more accessible, and our reach has gone much wider, right? The next point that I would like to talk about is in terms of scheduling. Now, obviously, when you get the people to gather to one place, what you try to do is you try to schedule everything, and you try to design and keep everything together, like in one go. So if you have a issue, we design a 3-day program, and for that training need, and we give everything in 3 days or maybe 5 days. And then what happens? Then what happens is then the person goes back, and the participant has the responsibility to implement the learning, or transfer of learning to the workplace or to the work role happens because and that becomes the responsibility of the participants. Now, what is the alternative? The alternative, which sometimes some people have tried, I have also tried even in NTPC, has been what is called staggered training. But staggered training becomes very difficult to implement, right? Now, staggered training has become much more easier to schedule. And in that case, what really happens is when you have a staggered sort of, training, whatever is given in one module, in the next module, when the group comes back, at that point of time, what you do is you actually begin with, okay, this is what we had learned last time. And in the intervening period, you would have tried to apply it, and you would have got some successes and also some sort of, some challenges you would be having. So what will be happening is that in the initial part of the next module, you are actually talking about, the successes. Now, the successes obtained by some participants encourage other participants. They see, acha, mere ko ye problem thi, par ye, this person has done it this way. So it becomes easier for diffusion of learning, diffusion of the real experiences, right? And diffusion is a very important issue in training and development. Now, so that, and if there is a challenge, some people are not able to implement, then those issues are handled by the trainer, and the trainer gives them advice, gives those participants advice, and they come up with some solutions to those challenges. And that is the way, what really happens is input, that is delivery of the input, plus application, transfer of learning, these get integrated. Now, therefore, L&D managers will have to now, L&D professionals will have to now see that where this type of scheduling is feasible, possible, and the new methods of scheduling will have to be sort of, really tried out, which will make the training much more effective. Now, next, I come to the issue of training methodologies. Training methods in the hybrid, which have been used, to begin with, it has been like presentation based, it has been more like using a PPT and then sharing the knowledge, sharing the concepts, etc. It had been our sort of effort, and in fact, some of the people in my team did wonderful experimentations on creating, adapting experiential exercises, case studies, case method, plus like business games, etc., to the online environment, and they have been quite sort of successful. In fact, the two people who did lots of this experimentation one was Mr. Patsati, who was handling the facilitation skills program. And I had to persuade him in the beginning, because what had happened is that he said, "Ye facilitation wala jo hai, ye online nahi ho sakta." Okay, I said, "Let's try it." And I was able to persuade him. And then he said, "Okay, we'll try new things." And the other one was Ms. Rekha Bhardas. Both of them did a lot of experimentation, and with that, we have a lot of experience now. How we modify, how do we create the experiential sort of exercises and handle them even online? Because one of the problem which we have really found is that if you recall the learning cycle, and in the learning cycle we have 4 stages. typically the second stage of reflection, that when you cause the participants to reflect, at that point of you have to give them some time, and there will be silence. Now, you can handle the silence when you are physically together, but when you are online, many of the people feel uncomfortable in handling the silence, right? This becomes a big challenge. And in fact, some of the people who are trainers who are mature and confident, they are able to handle this. And we would like to share those experiences with the other people also, so that they actually go through the entire experiential learning cycle in the appropriate manner, and they become confident even in handling the silence, and also provide, say, sometimes 3 minutes of silence or 5 minutes of silence. It's okay. It's not that, if you're online, you have to keep on speaking again and again and again and again. So this fear of silence is one which has to be sort of, thrown out. Right. Okay, so that's the thing. Okay. So next point that I would like to now talk of about the, our learning and development is the content issue, content of, the training. Now, in the environment where we are today, in the internet, the availability of the material, availability of so much of sort of things, I would say we are very content rich, right? However, what is the challenge to the trainer? The trainer's challenge is to curate the content. Of course, he or she has to understand that also very well, but has to curate it to the level of his audience, his specific audience, and that becomes very important. In fact, except for some specialized areas, like content is here, there, everywhere. So you don't have to bother so much about this. And availability of the books is also much easier now. You can online order the books, and you can really get to have some of the best books also. But content creation, both poses a, I would say, a benefit. Benefit means like easiness, the things are available, but also then the challenge that you have to now curate the content. So that becomes a very big challenge to the trainer, and that becomes the challenge. Rather than writing your own material, which of course not everyone is able to do, it is better to modify and customize the material to your audience requirement. The next point that I will come to is the motivation of the participants. That's a very important part. In fact, in the beginning, one of the criticism that we have about the online or hybrid learning, etc., is about this that people are not very interested. People are not very motivated. And in fact, this motivation to learn is a challenge. Now, I would say that online training has been viewed, as it has been viewed uninteresting and less participative. It has been because we had been in the beginning of this era. Now, the people who I find the trainers who are a little more adept and who make an attempt to make the participants, make the training participant centered, they are able to overcome this problem. Now, here we have the key to improving the motivation of participants to learn is in the design of the sessions. If a trainer is including adequate amount of what is called formative assessment. Now, where he or she can get the feedback from the people, right? If you are able to include these in your design and also ensure that your size of the group remains manageable. Then you will be able to handle the motivation of the group quite well. In fact, unfortunately, some of the people, administrator of that education as also administrator of the training area, have been thinking that the same numbers as we had earlier will continue to work. For example, a section in an educational institute will be about 60 people strong. So they feel that it's okay, now you handle 60 people in one class. But that doesn't work, because many of the participants will switch off their videos, and we don't know whether they are listening or they are not listening. And one faculty is not able to handle 60 people at the same time, because what happens is many of the people here, many of the participants are off the radar of that trainer or the teacher. So numbers have to be reworked. And in fact, earlier we have been thinking of only having about 20 people in, or about 16 to 20, or maybe 24 people in an adult training event. We might have to now look at reducing it. Not necessarily, there is no one rule which can be applied here. It will have to depend on the type of say involvement, participation that is required, and number of faculty that you are providing to that training event, right? Okay, so that's the issue of motivation that I would like to really say, that this is low motivation actually results from absence of interaction and low participation, and then the trainer doesn't get the feedback from the participants. So when you have included formative assessment components, then it will be easy. But if you have 60 people and you have results of 60 people together, I think it will be difficult, humanly impossible to handle that spontaneously. So that's the big issue that is there, right? So some of the things, which we should really understand, and I think here I would like to really talk about is that see this interaction and collaboration at a distance. This one example in the last century, which I would like to give you. Everyone knows about Albert Einstein, right? There was a person, a physicist in India, who was also working in similar areas, and they were working together. The name of this person was S.N. Bose, Satyendra Nath Bose. S.N. Bose and Einstein worked together, and they exchanged their work through mail. Which mail? Surface mail. That time even air mail was not available, and they used to share. And then there is something in the quantum physics, Bose-Einstein equation. Bose-Einstein equation, which happened. S.N. Bose met Einstein much later in his life, when he was invited, went over and had a meeting with Einstein. But before that, they had already done the collaboration. They had worked together. And those who have studied physics might remember that in the elementary particles, there is a particle which is called boson, B-O-S-O-N, boson. Proton hota hai, electron hota hai, ek hai boson. Boson, the name of boson is after S.N. Bose. You can understand that, obviously, we don't know him much in general, because perhaps he was not given a Nobel Prize, but his quality of his work was at that level. But the more important thing is collaboration at a distance. So important thing in collaboration is not so much that you have to be physically together, but what is important is you have to be, your minds must be tuned to each other. So how do you achieve that tuning of minds? That is that is something which trainers should try to see, that between themselves and between the participants, between them and the participants, and between the participants also, right? So coming to now, I'm going to sort of close very quickly, but just 2 points I would like to. One point is about the group size. Group size will have to be now reworked out because the cost is less, and we have to only have this, that what is the group size which is effective for a particular type of training. So some training which is like sharing of knowledge, maybe large number of people are possible, but suppose the concept which are complex and difficult to, which require more debate and all that, it is there that we should really think of having shorter groups. And in fact, I have seen in US and UK, they have even done programs with the help of 4 people or 6 people also, right? But for us, we normally have this कि जब तक 20 लोग नहीं होंगे तब तक ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम क्या करना. तो ऐसा नहीं है. Going forward, I think group sizes will be reducing. I won't give any say general idea about what the ideal group size should be. It actually depends a lot on the content and the type of learning objectives that we have. The final point that I would like to now share is about this issue of evaluation. Now there are 2 aspects of the evaluation that I would like to talk about. One is the first level, the participant reaction, evaluation of the training. So participant reaction, now we are finding that we can use things like Google Forms and ask the people to really say respond to the questions. And in fact, with the help of the software, we can actually generate the what is called the charts and pie charts and all that, and the report very easy. So that becomes a very good thing. What really happens is that the feedback, participants' feedback, it is easier to get, and it does not take so much time also. So earlier, if it was taking 15 minutes for the people to respond, and then it will take about an hour or 2 hours of work after the program is over to the trainer or to the learning and development manager to really create a report. Now it is much easier, much quicker. The second part is the participants' evaluation. That is evaluating how well they have learned. And in fact, one of the things that has been done by ISTD and particularly by the national headquarters is that now we have what is called the online examinations. But these online examinations are through a software which makes it proctored examinations. In proctored examinations, what you have is you have a supervisor who is sitting at another place, but online he is or she is able to watch each candidate, plus artificial intelligence is used to see that there is no irrelevant or unethical means being used by the participants. So you see, this is one area where a lot of development is taking place, and I think in due course of time we'll have much more, many more innovations coming in. Now, the part of this I have earlier talked of is the formative assessment. Yes, there are, software like Socrative and others, which have been well used for formative assessments also. Now, I won't go into detail of that, but yes, this is one area where more innovations are going to happen in future, and more learnings are required there. So I would like to just summarize what I've been saying in the last 30 minutes. Number one, there will be a greater push to the hybrid learning, and therefore L&D professionals have to reorient themselves to design their training programs and training calendar, etc., keeping in mind that largely they should make use of hybrid learning greatly. Number two is reach of learning and development manager has gone very high now. You have to make good use of it. Number three, there are new models of scheduling of training that has to be tried out, and you should try out this and come up with more effective scheduling which works better for you and better for your participants, right? And the fourth is there is enormous scope for developing exercises or adapting the experiential exercises or the business games to the online environment. I'm sure that our trainers and the content creators will have a lot of work in their hands to do this in future, in the next coming few years. There will be a lot of work on that. Now, the fifth point that I have been talking about is the easy availability of the content has been a boom, and curating it appropriately to match the needs of your audience is going to be the key challenge to the trainers, right? Okay. The fifth point is that trainer has a greater challenge in maintaining the motivation of the participants, and through what is called through gaining their attention and ensuring that everyone is participating, and that is a challenge that will have to be that you should be prepared for when you are beginning your session. You must have in mind your strategy to how to really maintain the motivation, how to increase the participation, etc. Sixth one is what I just talked about, the group sizes. Review the group sizes which work better for you, rework them. That's it. And the seventh, of course, was just that evaluation area is growing quite a lot. New experiments, new innovations are coming in, and we have yet to see and yet to involve or incorporate all this in our in our training offerings or training services. So these are the points that I wanted to. I will, keep it open now to questions as well as to comments from our esteemed colleagues. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful sharing of your thoughts on this theme. Let me just request the audience now for the questions. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand. We can have the live question as well. Deepak sir, you are there. Would you like to ask a question to Wine Kaushik sir?
My question is to my friend is very simple. In virtual sessions, how do we measure the progress or big impact as active engagement is missing? Sometimes we get in a feeling that we are talking to the screen. There is a saying that no technology can replace physical networking. So in this kind of scenario, what will be the real outcome of L&D initiatives, especially in the going forward when the hybrid culture?
Yeah, but the way forward will not be totally online.
Yeah.
The way forward will be that the same program is done in parts. Some components are online based, and some components are offline when people are physically meeting each other. The one of the issue to understand how well our people are progressing or not is in what is called the formative assessment. Formative assessment, components are put in between, and then from those components, the trainer is able to get the feedback and how well the people are able to do it. Now, this formative assessments can also be in form of, a very short quiz of maybe 4 MCQs and all that. Now, one of the good things, in online is कि आपको immediately पता चल जाएगा किसने सही जवाब दिया है, किसने गलत जवाब दिया है. So you can in fact actually speak out to that person and say, oh, Mr. X, your answer is this. What do you think? Why you answered this? And then the working, the the filling in the gap, that is feasible. So as I was saying, the software or the packages like apps like Socrative, etc., are there, which are getting into, which people know that they are there, but they have not made much use of it.
I know.
So once you start using it, and when you become familiarized, then you have a better, uh, uh, I wouldn't use the word control, better understanding of the progress that your group is making.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Thank you, YNK. Wonderful session, I must say that.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Any other question which we have? Sunil Abrol, sir, you are there. Would like to ask the question?
Or maybe he would like to add.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr. Chauhan.
always have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. I don't have a question, but I would like to maybe take 2 minutes to share my perspective on the macro implications.
Sure.
First and foremost, compliments to Mr. Kaushal for a wonderful presentation. And the entire Delhi Chapter Management Committee and the Diploma Committee in particular for the kind of work that they have done and the way they have been able to adapt to the change during pandemic. As explained by Mr. Kaushal, there seems to have a lot of work and hard effort that has gone into adapting to the new requirements. Having said that, I thought it would be good to understand the macro implications of pandemic on the training function and trainers. As I look at it, entire training function and training delivery is going to change in future. While it will be a combination of both virtual and classroom training, but my understanding is, and that's my prediction, that there'll be more of virtual learning, because as the trend comes in, not more than 50% people are going to go back to work today, which means that 50% of the people are going to continue to work from anywhere, their home, their hometown, any other place that they are physically in, which will basically mean that training will have to be anywhere, anytime, at my convenience, which would mean that more and more people would not want to come into the classroom, or even in the virtual mode, they would not like to come into a virtual classroom session at fixed time. People are not available. If you tell them that come from say 10 to 12 on every Monday or every Sunday or every Saturday, they are not available, right? So that's going to make training very different in terms of flexibility at which people would like to learn. So that brings the challenge in terms of how training is going to be designed and delivered so that people can access training at their own convenience. Second important thing, which has been highlighted by Mr. Kaushal also, is the use of technology. Technology use is going to have implications both for the learner as well as for the trainer. And that's a big challenge. Why I'm saying a big challenge? Because it is not about Zoom. Zoom is only 1% of the technology that trainers are going to use. It's about everything else in terms of engagement of participants, in terms of creating content, which is going to be more participative and customized, in terms of giving hands-on experience to people in the virtual learning environment, in terms of allowing people to ask questions and get clarifications, in terms of assessment of learning, and so on. So a lot of technology will have to be learned and used both by the trainer and by the participants in terms of making training effective. The third thing which I believe is going to happen is the change in terms of the way we have been designing the content. I have been delivering Training the Trainer program for many years, and suddenly I found that the content that I was delivering for last 20 years is not valid anymore. And therefore, the entire training program that I was delivering on training of trainers now has a totally different content, because that's the need of the new world. The new world needs more components of training, the way it's going to be delivered, the way it's going to be assessed, the way it's going to be identified, everything changes. So training need assessment changes, training content development changes, training delivery changes, training assessment changes, engagement of participants changes. Every component of Train the Trainer program changes because of the environment in which we are now going to work. So it's total change of the program. It's not that I can only add one module on virtual training and I can deliver. No, it doesn't happen. The entire thing changes. And finally, one thing which I believe is going to happen is people will not have time for a 3-day training program or for a 5-day training program or a 2-day training program. Future is going to be micro-learning, which means that trainers and the trainees will be looking at content which can be delivered in maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour, and nothing more than that. And I'm sure all of you must be seeing the trend. Today, even virtual training programs or virtual conferences that are happening are only half-day events. No organization today is organizing a program which is from 9 to 6. It will either begin in the morning at 9 and finish at 1, or it will start at 2 or 3 and finish at 6. Right? So the duration of training itself is going to be shortened. And therefore, when it comes to learning on my own, especially the self-learning component, people would want to have training modules which are very small, maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour, nothing more than that. Which means we will have to cut down our training programs into bits and pieces. So a Train the Trainer program, which I was delivering in 3 days, will have to be converted into maybe 10 units. 1 unit on maybe training need assessment, 1 unit on maybe designing of training program, 1 unit on designing activities for training, 1 unit on engagement of participants, 1 unit on delivery of training, 1 unit on training methods, 1 unit on evaluation of training. Like that, we will have to convert the entire training program into small bits and pieces. So training will be sold, delivered, and accepted in micro-learning modules rather than as a big chunk of training the trainers. That is an example that I'm citing, and that will hold good for any training program, whether it is negotiation skills, whether it is leadership training, or any other training. Thank you for the time that you have given me and the opportunity for sharing my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abral sir. It's always a pleasure to sort of look at and learn from you. The maturity that you have achieved, and as a professional, and the years of experience that you have about Train the Trainer. Your points are wonderful and well accepted. Mr. Deepak Varara has raised one more point, I think, if I can respond to that, Yashwant. The point is about the coaching and mentoring. Varara sir, in fact, in the in my experiences of the executive coaching, particularly, I would meet my coachee for about maybe 12 times or so over 9 months or say 12 months, right? One meeting a month or so. Now, how I think it will be going forward is, how it will happen is that the first meeting may be a little bigger one, 2-3 hours, and physical, one-to-one, right? You are going, meeting the person and having this. Next, maybe, like say 2 or 3 meetings may happen virtual. And then again, you have a one physical sort of, meeting and like that. So if you have say 12, say interactions required in the entire coaching, effort, then maybe, about 3 or 4 will be physical and others will be, say, online. Yeah, once again, it depends on the comfort of the executive coach as also coaching.
Yeah, thank you, INK. In fact, my purpose was different. When I was asking this question, I was saying that mentoring coaching will get more importance than the training because of the customization of learning.
That's right. Yeah, there are 2 words which have been greatly used. One is individualization and personalization.
Absolutely.
Right? And if that happens, then either we will have very small groups or even one-to-one training will start happening. Right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you, INK.
Right.
Sir, can I add something here?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, the point that was mentioned, it's rightly mentioned, about coaching, because I'm also a sales. I was a sales trainer earlier, but now the kind of it is one-to-one coaching that I'm doing. So I'm doing it for Access Bank. And it's pretty good. And it's going pretty well. So you're right, as you rightly mentioned that, some coaching happens in the beginning, we go and meet the person, and then we do it online sometimes, and then we again go and meet him. So that's how the entire model is working right now for me also. So I resonate with what you are saying, and that's the model going forward. I would, that's what I feel, that coaching is taking the place of training now going forward.
Sure.
Thank you for your inputs. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I have just attempted to ask one question. So based on the current, sir, scheme of things, the way learning and development is moving, how do you think this is going to emerge? Especially with respect to the working professionals. Because many times we see that professionals are not able to devote time for the learning and development program because of the official exigencies, right, sir? So how as an L&D function we can innovate on that account so as to provide them more flexibility of that going for those particular programs.
Yeah. See, how I view this is that one, you might have to have multiple scheduling. For example, in Diploma, we have currently what is going on is we have a one, weekend sessions, and we also have a during the week, work week sessions also. So the weekend sessions happen on Saturday from that 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and on Saturday and Sunday. And on as far as weekday things are concerned, they happen from 7 o'clock to 8:30 or 9. Now, so now this is one way, ISTD has been able to sort of, cater to the needs of people. We might have to really see in future, because you see what is happening is that if you are a trainer and you are delivering the training from your home, and you are delivering 1 hour or 1.5 hour, 90 minutes training, and you are a participant, you are receiving the training at your home, while yes, you have to be focused on at that point of time, you do have less sort of, stress of otherwise, you have to go during the, that work time, that is between 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock, reach at a certain place, and both of you have to reach at the same place together. So the travel time and all that. So what is happening is that, like for example, my daughter has joined a club, and they have a 3-hour meeting every Saturday morning. She is having that sort of thing. So this is in fact going towards that personal development. There's some amount of networking also, and there is some amount of sort of learning also that is taking place. So with this, there is one more aspect that is coming. Earlier, people were, the participants were waiting for the organization to sponsor them for the training. Now, what is happening is that some of the people, younger people, are actually spending their own money to acquire certifications and which they think, in their opinion, might be very useful for their future, and they may not even like to share it with their employer, that I am like doing this, and so you are good at programming, but now you are learning something like artificial intelligence. So organization will say, "नहीं, हम तो आपके लिए artificial intelligence से काम नहीं देंगे." But who stops that young boy or girl to chart out his or her own career? So there is a trend which is emerging, and that is the younger people happen to be now investing, and money-wise also, time-wise also, and money-wise also, in upgrading themselves in the direction in which they would like to, right? So that's happening, and right now it is not a big movement, but it is definitely happening. Like I had heard about like people in California typically will every Saturday they will say, "Oh, I'm going to this particular program today," because they invest in their own development. So today, I mean, something like that is happening in India also, right?
True. Thank you so much, sir. With this, I just have maybe a follow-up question, just small one. So when we talk about the L&D, I think the tangible output of the training is so very important, which is about the return on training investment, right? So how do you see in the hybrid learning, this entire concept of ROTI, which is return on training investment, emerging, and will it lead to more return on training investment?
See, there are two aspects here. One is there is data available. If you are doing some hybrid this thing, then there is a lot more data available, which can be used for figuring out whether we have got the return or not. But the final data would essentially will be from the organization, which essentially means is from the boss. कि भाई आपने ये करा, आपने ये सीखा, आपने अप्लाई किया, अब इससे मेरे को फायदा हो रहा है या नहीं? For example, if I put in money and give training to my customer service executives, a certain type of handling irate customers, etc., all that, then there has to be some change in the customer satisfaction index. So if I do the customer service satisfaction survey, then I must get a better results on that. Similarly, on say if I have to do something as an HR manager will have to do look for employees are more engaged or employees are more satisfied. If we are doing something, if we're investing our time, money on some activities, some projects which we believe will lead to better engagement, then when we assess the engagement, then we can get the that. So availability of data is a lot more available in this environment. Working out, or I would say manipulating or processing that data, that is somewhere where we will have to really work a little more and start understanding this. Right? Hope I have been able to give some answer to this.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful talk. It was indeed great listening to you. let me now, request our Vice Chairman of the ISTD Delhi Chapter, Sri G.V. Shastri sir, to kindly propose the vote of thanks for today's session. Over to you, Shastri.
Thank you, Yashwant. It was indeed a wonderful session by our own YN Kaushalji. We all know he is a very knowledgeable and highly experienced training and development professional and one of the pillars of ISTD Delhi chapter. So he has beautifully brought out the issues and challenges and the possible solutions in the field of learning and development in the changed context. We have, all of us have heard time and again that learning is a continuous process and a lifelong process. But it also pains that not many top managers acknowledge and really understand this. Training is never an expenditure, it is always an investment. Even a sabjiwala has to continuously learn to be innovative and creative in business approach. For example, when demonetization occurred and digitization and digitalization was given priority by the government, the sabjiwala vendor also learned how to make transactions through Paytm, through mobile or through Google Pay, or how to make home deliveries using WhatsApp and so on. So everything is subject to change, and in fact, it is only the change which is constant in this world. So with these words and this kind of philosophy, ISTD also adopted the same approach. COVID-19 was a challenge for all, for the entire world. But we at ISTD converted the challenge into opportunity, and pandemic could not stop us from conducting our regular activities like diploma classes or evening talks or even national conclave. And the routine administrative activities were also going on in the change context also. So that is an example of adaptability to change. Now coming to the important points brought out by Kaushal Saab with regard to learning and development, he focused upon the change scenario and the need for reviewing and redesigning the sessions, the content, the timing, the scheduling, and the need to engage the participants to draw their attention, to design the exercises, case studies, etc., to make sure that learning is fruitful. It is not that somebody is sitting in front of computer and passing time. That serves no purpose. So trainer has to make sure that the participants are really engaged. Then our respected Dr. Abrol added a few very good points with regard to the change scenario and spoke about the curation of the content, the engagement methodology, the micro learning, and the short duration training, and all those things were brought out by him. So with these words, I really express hearty gratitude and thanks to Mr. Y.N. Kaushal for this beautiful and wonderful session. मैं तो कहूँगा जिसको गागर में सागर भरना, वो that he has done in a short period of time. So I, on behalf of our Delhi chapter team led by Mr. Mukesh Jain and my colleagues, Mr. Yashwant Chauhan, Mr. Arpit Suri, and of course Mr. Ajay Sahu in absentia, and also the participants like our respected Dr. Sunil Abrol, Dr. Suri was also there, Mr. Jay Karan Dahiya, Dr. Anubha Walia, Mr. Deepak Bharara, our own Pritima ji, she has made a lot of contribution in organizing this lecture series throughout past 2 years. Then Anubha Walia, Namrata Singhal, Shivani Chawla, Shruti Parak, Rima Malhotra, Sanjeev Kumar Singh, Mr. Subhash Jagota also joined for some time, but now he has left. Mr. K.V. Satyaprakash, Mr. Yogesh, and all others who took out their time for attending this wonderful session and to get benefited out of it. Thanks to all the participants, and special thanks to Mr. Y.N. Kaushal, the speaker for today's evening. Thank you, and over to Yashwant.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful vote of thanks. With this, we come to the conclusion of the session. I would now like to request Mukesh Kumar Jain, sir, to kindly, share the announcement, for the coming week.
Oh, good evening and thank you very much, Kaushal sir and Dr. Sunil Abral. Thank you, Sastri ji, for summing up the wonderful session. Now, the next program of ours is on 30th April by a very senior person, Mr. Devashish Satpathy, General Manager HR NBCC, New Delhi, on 30th April at the same time 6 p.m. Management lessons from Mahabharata. And it is going to be a very, very interesting session. So all of you are requested to join and tell your friends also to join this session and learn the good lessons. Thank you very much. The second thing I would like to mention here that ISTD Delhi Chapter election process is on. Last date for submitting the nomination is on 25th April, 3 p.m. So please come forward and participate in the election process and send your nomination to the returning officer in physical form by 25th April, 3 p.m. Thank you very much and have a great time. Thank you. Thank you, Ashwant, for well conducting the session. Thank you,
Thank you so much,
Purnima ji.
sir.
Thank you very much.
For joining for today's session.
Thank you, Dr. Nepal Singh,
Thank you,
Dr.
Purnima ma'am.
Alok Goyal,
Thank you, sir.
everybody.
Thank you, Mukesh bhai.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deepak bhai. Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good time.
Thank
So,
you.
Yashwant, please close the meeting.
Right, sir. Right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.